Hey folks, welcome back to Jerome Bee Farm & Homestead. Today is Friday, October 3rd, so it's fall. Can you believe that? Seems like not long ago we were putting honey supers on and things are going fast and furious. I was grafting queens and everything was great. So here we are in the fall. I got 25% loss and I went and did some research before I started this video to see what year of queen was in those hives that failed, because I was suspecting that it was mostly my blue 2025 queens that were failing because of all the rain we had during the mating flight time. So what does the data say? Okay, I had one queen from 2023 and that was back over here. That was hive 30, and I had 5 fail from 2024 queens, the green queens, and I have 4 hives fail from 2025 blue queens. So the majority is, well, most of them are 2024 and 23 is that one, so 60% of them were older queens. Now the 2024s, they're not that old, but usually they will fail on later, like into the fall now or into the winter. So what I suspect has happened on those 2024s, they didn't superseed correctly for whatever reason. I only had 2 hives that I found that they were void of bees, so don't know what happened there. The rest of my hives, I saw them going and getting weak. I saw them try to supersede. I saw supersedures that didn't work out. Queen didn't come back, had open supersedure cells, didn't make it back from mating, dragonflies, whatever. So that's a big part of that. So yeah, so my thoughts were not correct, thinking, well, this is all my new queens that are failing, and that's not the case. So, but 2 of the nukes I sold to someone, their queens both have failed, and they both requeened successfully. They're in an area, I guess, where they had good bee population, a lot of drones, and the queens in there that are in there now are doing great. They're not marked blue, and they're doing fine. So her hives are up to weight, and they're doing really good. So I'm glad that worked out for her. So this time of year, I struggle a little bit with content to show and keep you all entertained with bee videos. I didn't show my wax. I just didn't feel like that was that exciting. But I did show you the pictures of it and kind of walk you through the process there in my big 8-pound chunk of wax. But yeah, so I saw Mike Berry doing his and some other folks, so I didn't bother doing that. But I've been trying to follow up with these hives that are having trouble still. And I had this crazy queenless swarm that was killing the queen that was in there, and then the hive that I moved that queen to. So if you saw in the last video, I moved that hive that had that virgin queen in there that I caged, and she was dead. I combined that down there. I think it's like 34. So that's hive 34 over there. We'll get in there and check that out. So I put that queenless hive on top of that other with that brown paper to do the newspaper combine. And the murder-suicide swarm, I didn't video this, but I put it on top of the Bee Smart hive, and that's the one right next to it. So that was on location 20. There wasn't even a hive there, and I put the box there and they all moved in. No queen. So I put that 3rd deep onto the Bee Smart hive, and a few days later, I newspaper combined it. A few days later, I took the newspaper out. They had already worked their way through, and I culled out 10 frames that didn't have anything in them and reduced it back down to a double. So I want to get into the Bee Smart hive, do a queen right check in there, and see what they've got. So that Bee Smart hive, the first queen attempted on that position 21 was a grafted queen. The queen didn't make it back from a mating flight. Then I put a swarm cell in there from hive 16, and I found that queen later, marked her, and she disappeared after laying just for a little bit. And then after that was a emergency queen cell that emerged and mated and made it back okay. So it's a super seizure, well, it's an emergency queen that's in that, and she's pretty small, so she's not a really good quality queen. So let's get into 21 and 34 and do queen right checks after these combines and see did the murder suicide swarm cause more trouble in the Be Smart hive? I don't know. Let's get in there and see what we find. Okay, here's our hive 21. Looks good out front. I have the Be Smart entrance closed down on these two here, and it's open here on the end. So this was not a strong hive to begin with. It's been combined once, and then it had the third deep on it that came from this spot right here, number 20, where the murder suicide swarm came from. And they've all been combined, so it's been combined 3 ways. And this is a small emergency queen, and she's dark in color and she's been marked. And here's the Be Smart inner cover. It's got the robbing screen stored away in here. And the Be Smart folks contacted me. They've got a new version of this, and they said they were sending me some to show. The venting's a little different, and I think there's entrances in a different spot as well. But they said it was improved, but I thought this one was great. In fact, I did have it over there on the Magic Mountain Mama hive because there was a little bit of robbing going on over there. It's got these little notches here to fit your hive tool in. There's 2 on each side, on the sides and the front and back. Looks good. A lot of hive beetles, oh my gosh. I'm gonna get some RP Works beetle traps and take care of these suckers. Look at them all running around. There's a bunch of bees in this little hole here. I wonder if they got a bunch corralled up in there. But the best way to get these beetles when there's bees in the way is just use your fingers. Most of them are already gone. Took off, but they're around this way. There's one. Yeah, I'll put a couple of those beetle traps in here to help them out because this isn't the strongest hive. Yeah, I bet I squished 15 or 20 of them there. Okay, let's get in here and see what we find. I see a lot of bees across here, so the population is good. I see a lot of honey. Let's see what this weighs. Oh yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give this 8 as far as how heavy it is. It does not need fed at all. Full slab of honey right there on the outside frame. So keep in mind, this has been combined 3 times, so I took the best of 3 hives and have put them together. Another slab of honey. So again, I'm looking for, I want to see proof of this queen that's doing well in here. So I want to see at least larvae. If I see eggs, that's great. If I see the queen, that's just a bonus. Right now, all I'm seeing is chunks and chunks of honey. Some of y'all might have noticed something different, new in this video. So if you saw that and went, oh, what's going on with that? Put down below what you think it is. Slab number 4. Man, this hive could donate some honey actually. I'll have to remember that, you know, coming out of winter, if I got hives that need food, I can rob out of here complete full slabs of honey. Here's some open comb here. Maybe we'll see some brood. So it's been, I think 2 weeks since I combined that swarm on here. Okay, here we got brood, larvae, and eggs out to the edge. So being that it's been 2 weeks ago, We definitely have an active queen in here. See if I can get a shot of those. Oh yeah. See the eggs right there? So that means the queen's been laying in here within the last, what, 4 days? And after 4 days, they hatch it and turn into the larva. I think that's how many days it takes. I know when you graft, you want to pull your graft frame day 4. Here's some more. We might see her on this. This is exactly the same, but what's different is there's fresh nectar around here. So this hive is bringing in fall flow, which I tried to get a shot of the bees flying. Pretty good activity coming in and out. I mean, it's not like the spring flow, but they got some flight going on. Nice little piece of brood there. Same thing, it goes out to eggs at the very edge and it runs into the new nectar. So this hive is doing great. Adding those, what, three to 4 frames of bees from that swarm just boosted them even more. And that was a newspaper combined. So this is all liquid and some pollen. Same here. I'm not going to see that queen on these frames here. She's not a laying here. So she's going to be down below. I did smoke it a little bit before I pulled that first frame, so that might have sent her down below. All right, well, we're good here. No sense in going down, disturbing them anymore. So this hive does not need fed. It doesn't need anything. Just need to get it through winter. That emergency queen needs to survive. And make a note, you know, we'll see how she does. Sometimes those queens will do really good and you think they're fine, and all of a sudden they're done. And you need a new queen. The best queens come from swarm cells and ones that are grafted, that get a lot of nutrition in their development. So an emergency queen, it's an emergency. So they go with what they've got, and if they're a little short on food, which didn't look like they were there, but they may not have the best queen in the world, and those cells aren't real big either. As you know, that queen, she's not the biggest. Oh, I was going to put some RPB works in here. Okay, I got 5 beetle traps here that are loaded with diatomaceous earth. I stick them down in the bag about 1/3 of the way, scoop it up, then I spread it around, and you can see it in there. Good stuff. So bees can't get into this, so what it does, it dehydrates the beetles and they die inside of this trap. Then all you got to do is shake out the powder and add new. And the good thing about these is this slides off, you dump it out, they're reusable, they're easy to clean, they're narrower than the Beetle Blaster. The Beetle Blaster is not reusable. Beetle Blasters work, don't get me wrong, but they're not reusable and they don't fit real well between the frames. Watch this. See how flush that sits? And I'll scoot it together and it's still flush. The Beetle Blaster will ride up, beetles can get underneath it, and before you pull a Beetle Blaster out, you want to put your hive tool on top of it, push it down and run it down at pressing to squish any beetles that might be hiding underneath it, because they get in there and there'll be a bunch underneath there. I've run Beetle Blasters for years. I've tried to clean them out, you just can't do it. So this is really innovative. I think these are 3D printed. I think they come in packs of 10, and you can get this holder with them that holds it upright. So if you're going to use DE, diatomaceous earth, You can just set it flat. They don't fall over. The stuff doesn't get out anywhere. And DE's not bad. It's kind of like baby powder. It's not toxic. It's just a natural mechanical way of controlling the beetles rather than a chemical. So diatomaceous earth diatom stands, the DI whatever part stands for diatom. That's the little microscopic sea creatures that this is made from. So it's ground up into powder. I believe it's the same type of stuff that's in borax, maybe. I may be wrong there. But to the beetles, it's sharp and it cuts them. And, you know, it's hard on beetles. I'll just leave it at that. So they'll get down in these little holes and they go in there. The bees will corral them down in there, and we'll catch us some. Yeah, I can see beetles down in this hole. They've gone down in there and they're hiding. So this is where the bees would make it to a feeder. Yeah, they're just running around in circles in there. Come out of there. Well, I'll leave him in there and he can find his way into the trap. Let's see, I got it backwards. I want my vent hole in the front. This little hole right here. That little hole goes in a little tunnel all the way back to this centerpiece. So there is ventilation. And here's extra entrance closers for the front if you need them. And I put my little tacks, push pins from the entrance reducers. Hi, Mrs. Bee Farm's home. I took the push pins from the robbing screen, stuck them in there to hold these in place a little better so they don't fall out. So I didn't bother pulling that newspaper out. They were eating most of the way through it all, so it was really open in there. All right, let's get down to 34, is it? Where I carried that hive over here. Yep, 34. Here it is, and I use that Amazon brown packing paper to do my combine. Okay, the history on this Hive 34. It was a swarm cell queen that I got from my starter finisher hive number 99, formerly known as 13. And when I was done doing my grafting and I was taking that down and pulling out the divider board, they had made some queen cells in there on the queenless side where I was putting my grafts, and they were making some emergency cells after I had took it down. So that's where that came from. And it was queen right by June, and there is a blue marked queen in here. There was. So let's see what we find. So it's had 2 combines put onto it. So at one point I did reduce it from a double to a single, and in the last video you saw me bring this box over from failed hive 19, I think it was, or no, 14. See, lots of bees up here. That looks good. Let's see if I can get away with not using smoke. Better chance of finding our queen faster. So I see bees pretty much all the way across. Not the big bunch of beetles like in that other one. There's a couple. So we're probably not going to see evidence of the queen up above, but we might. So the queen was in the bottom when we did the combine. They've ate through that paper, I can see down in there. It's pretty chewed up. Getting a whiff of that. Yeah, I can smell that. I think it's goldenrod nectar. Boy, it's full. Let me get you a shot of the paper down there. Yeah, so remember when I was putting that big old thick brown paper on there? I just put a few slits in it towards the middle. It's all but gone. And I know some of you were thinking, they'll never chew through that. They've devoured it. Lots of liquid on here. Where all those bees got their heads in there, that's full of liquid. This side, same deal. They don't need fed. Let's see what they weigh. Yeah, I've got 2 frames out of there, and I'd say it's a 7 to 10 on the heavy scale. This one's not as full. I think that's one I just pulled out. I'd like to see a brood frame up here and find that queen, but this is all going to be food. These are fairly full, but not as much as those first few frames I pulled out of there. All liquid. Same. And boy, I can smell it. We need to move fast so we don't cause a robbing frenzy here. And thought I saw some larvae, but that was just old dry wax. All food. I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to get this box off. And we'll look for our queen. That is a really distinctive smell. It's really not the smelly, sweaty socks smell, but it's different than the spring honey smell. It has kind of like a spicy type, I don't know how to describe it, smell to it. It's a little different. So yeah, hopefully they're filling up these supers with that. I'm gonna put this inner cover on that other box just to keep the other bees away from it a little bit. Yeah, look how much of that paper they've torn off or ate off. They've all but cleaned it out. So I'll take this and put it in the wagon and shove it in the smoker. Still seeing a lot of bees. Good population. It's what we want to see. But we need to see some brood so we know we're getting some winter bees built up. Getting a lot of propolis built up on these frames on the outside. Scrape it off on the side of the box too. Gives you a little more space. So here's a bee with pollen right here. So this frame is loaded with pollen right there. And where's that bee? Right there she is with her pollen. So the goldenrod is definitely in bloom, as you can see from the intro shot. So that goldenrod that you saw with the bees on it is actually up in my wife's flower bed. She's like, I don't know what this is, you know, when it was like this tall. She goes, I'm just gonna let it grow. It's pretty green, it's kind of good foliage. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, looks like a weed to me. And she let it grow, and it grew into that like 7-8 foot tall, big plumes goldenrod. So here's larvae right here and some cat brood in this old comb. There's not a date on this, meaning it's probably vintage 2015 type time frame. A lot of pollen right there. I see a lot of brood right in here. Larvae. Yeah, that's just loaded with fresh larvae right there. So I'm going to go a few more frames. That's probably all I needed to see right there to know we're good. Queen right. Capped here. Boys, some old comb. Some capped and intermittent larvae in between. Boy, there's a lot of propolis between these frames. Okay, the smell is kind of like a sweet tart type smell, if that makes sense. It's got that kind of tart aroma to it. So there's, you know, not a great pattern, but there's brood on here. There's a few bald brood, but I think that is uncapping behavior right there, is what it looks like. Same thing, it's just spread out. That light is almost too bright. Not a lot of larvae in these, in that one. Mostly it's just capped. This looks to be a newer frame here. Maybe there'll be some good brood on this. No, they're filling that with nectar. Sure like to see that queen. This is all going to be food on this side. Yeah, lots of liquid in here. A lot of bees gathered up on the bottoms of the frames. I'm going to take a peek at these last 4 again. Or first 4, whatever you want to call it. It's odd to me that there's not nurse bees on this. Maybe it's because it's all capped. I don't know, that just seems weird. If I was a queen, this is where I'd be hanging out. This frame right here. Got all these larvae. You know, the brood looks correct. It doesn't look like it's a laying worker type brood. But I can't 100% say this is good because I don't see eggs. I'll get my light here and check again. All the larvae I see are older. Here's some on this side that are fairly young, maybe 3-4 day old larvae. So that means the queen laid 7 days ago ish. We're not going to see her tonight. That's why I got that holster, so I wouldn't drop my hive tool all the time and lose it. See how that's working for me? Ah. Works great when you use it. All right, let's put them back together. Thought I might see her up here, but I don't. We'll shake these down here in front of the hive. All right. Well, this appears to be good. I wish I could see a nice laying pattern like we saw on Hive 21 over there. Nice tight, big rainbow, you know, instead of shotgun pattern. And the thing is, there's no new comb in here that's been drawn out fresh and set aside for the queen to lay in. Everything that's done in here is like rework of the bees, repurposing frames to what they want it to be, because it's been kludged together. It was a split, then it was a combined, different frames added, combined again and again. So I think that's why you're seeing that shotgun pattern in here. So I think it's okay, but we do need to follow up and make sure we do come back and find that queen or find eggs. So I'll put my brick out here in the front to remind me to check it. And I'll make my note that says it looks queen right, but need to validate it. So food-wise, they're good. They got pollen in there. They got tons of nectar and honey. They're set. So just need to make sure they got a good queen. And the queen that was in here was a 2025 queen. So we'll see how it goes. I got a couple hives to feed. I'm only feeding 2 more. I'm not going to video that, so I'm going to get around the corner and feed those. It's getting dark on me, and that'll get them set, and I'll be good for another week. So I'm about 400 and some away from my 14,000 goal. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button for me, and hit the thumbs up. It builds my video in the search algorithm in YouTube. And a couple of you accidentally hit the one that looks like this, so make sure you get the right one. So that is it. We'll catch you on the next beekeeping video. Y'all take care. Okay, got this dug out. Just trying to find where the leak is. Show you what it looks like down here. So these are power lines and switch lines going to the float switches. This is the output high pressure line coming off the water pump going towards the garden and the rest of the yard, and to this on-off switch I got right here. And that's where I had a little piece of pipe sticking up that I turned that switch off or valve off, and it still leaks. So the leaks from there back here. I'm suspecting it's one of these elbow fittings. I probably didn't get enough glue on it. Who knows? It's good Schedule 40 pipe, so it's probably not cracked. This is the input line from the water well that sends water in every 24 hours. It puts in about 150 gallons. So let's power this sucker up and see what we find. Whoa, my. We have a geyser. For some reason it shut off. It's coming from right there. So the pump protector probably kicked it off for some reason. So here's my pump saver for the cistern tank, and it's green flashing, red is off. So that's this condition right here, and it says overcurrent, which is odd. Okay, so I dug this side out and kicked on the water and sprinted out here, and the leak is right there on that fitting where it's really bright white right there. Let's see if I can zoom in. You can actually see the crack across the threads. So one thing I've learned working on PVC pipe and whatnot, if you've got a fitting that has threads, PVC threads, that's going to be your weak link. So this fitting here is all one piece. This converts the threaded to this bulkhead connector in there where the PVC pipe is connected on the other side to the pump. This is all one piece. This is 1 1/4 to probably 1 1/4 threads, and those threads just snapped. So as the ground shifts, things move around, whatever, puts pressure on those threads. They just cannot take any type of pressure that's not internal from the pipe. They just will break. I've got similar connectors like that on the bottom of my outdoor freeze hydrants, the hydrants that you water spigots that go up, you know, and they're buried down deep in the ground so they don't freeze. Same sort of connector on the bottom of those. I snapped off probably 3 of those just by turning the things on and off. Just that little bit of wiggle breaks them. So I went back with all brass on those. So I need to see if I can get a brass threaded piece for that, and come back with an internal threaded PVC piece that will thread onto the brass female coupler. So I'm gonna have to cut all this out. Looks like there's a little bit of a downward angle on it too. So that might be, and it's cracked across the top. So that is probably the cause of that. So there's too much side pressure on that, going from top to bottom on those threads. So now for the not so fun part, dig into the repair part, which is going to be difficult. I may have to actually get inside the tank to get that out of there. I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, I cut my pipe off, and you can see when I did, it released the tension and lowered that down probably a little over 1/4 of an inch. So that's not a lot of tension on that, but it's probably maybe a couple pounds of force, if that. But that's all it took to break that little fitting over time. So fortunately, I am able to turn it with my channel locks here. If it don't break off, I won't have to climb inside that tank. I could go back and repair it with, just put another one of these in there. It's gonna do the same thing. So I think this has been here 3 years. There we go. I can't see the crack now, but it's there. So that's a pretty substantial fitting. That is a strong fitting. Okay, so I went and took an inventory of my fittings I've got in there left over from this project to begin with, and look, behold, I have a spare one of these. So I would like to go back with brass. That's going to take a trip into town, do all that. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and use this. I'm going to replace it in there, but I'm going to change the way I've run this. So I'm going to stub it out right here and leave the stub sticking out. I'm going to take all this part here out. I'm going to come off that stub with a 90. I'm going to come up this direction, put a 45 here, angling down, and connect into this pipe that way. And that'll get rid of that tension that's on that. And I'll start my pipe fitting right here. I'll cut it on this end. So I'll work towards this fitting that's going to already be screwed in. And my last connection, I'll be moving this around on this end to slide it on there. And that way I won't be putting any tension or bending this thing any which way. If I was to start on this end and go this direction and make my final connection here, I would have to be bending this pipe around, putting all that tension on this fitting, bending it side to side, and I don't want to do that. So I'll do the bending. All the tension will be on this strong fittings back here, and I'll have all this flexibility to get on there. So that's the plan now. Okay, update. So there wasn't room to go over the top of this because of these lines right here in the way. There just wasn't room, so I used 2 90s and did like a little zigzag and went under it, went under my input line, and I put this little L piece in here last, and I was able to rotate this whole piece here a little bit because of the threads here, and that allowed me to get this on there more easily. So this was my last piece to put in, and I didn't have to manhandle it too much, so I didn't put a whole lot of tension on that coupling. So we'll see. Got my valve turned on here. I'm going to let this cure for a little bit, and then we'll pressure test it here in a bit. Hopefully the pump will stay on this time. Oh, one other thing. By doing that little thing there with the 2 90s, I used up all my 90s and I had needed one more. So I ran to the nearest hardware store, which is 8 miles away, and to get another 90. And I thought about getting a union fitting, so I could like maybe right there put a union in that and just screw them together, so I don't have all that tension and trying to get it in there and with the, before the glue sets and all that. But the only unions they had there were the threaded type, so they didn't have the slip-on type, so that idea fell through. I also did look for a brass threaded piece to go in there, and the biggest they had was 1 inch, so that didn't work. I could have got galvanized, but galvanized will rust over time, so I just went with what I had there. Okay, I opened up my valve here so it's not deadheaded and kicked on the pump. I have a hydrant open down the line, so it's running. You can hear it. And it just tripped off. Let's go see if the hydrant's running. Yeah. So I got water. So hopefully it's not tripped out. It just got up to pressure. And no fault lights. So it's up to pressure. The pressure tank is in this little box right here. I've got heaters in here and pressure switches in there, but the tank's right here. So everything appears to be working good.
Leaving from St. Louis, headed for the coast. No telling when or if you're coming home. And half the time you knew me, you were out there on the road. It's a wonder that we've come this far at all. When the heather's blooming on the mountainside, and the north wind blows across the great divide, won't you tell me what it's like underneath that western sky?